To change, to truly change, is to think greater than your environment. And every great person in history knew this. Whether it was William Wallace or Mahatma Gandhi or Martin Luther King or Queen Elizabeth I or Joan of Arc, they all had a vision. They all had an idea. Couldn't see it, couldn't smell it, couldn't taste it, couldn't feel it, but it was alive in their mind. It was so alive in their mind that they began to live as if that reality was actually happening now. So can you believe in a future that you can't see or experience with your senses yet, but you've thought about enough times in your mind that your brain is literally changed to look like the event has already happened? Neuroscience says it's absolutely possible. And can you fall in love with the future potential, by the way, that already exists in the quantum field? And how many potentials exist in the quantum field? Infinite potentials. Can you pick a potential that already exists in the quantum field and fall in love with that future potential before the experience is made manifest? And begin to emotionally condition your body into believing that future event has already happened to the degree that it begins to signal new genes in new ways so that your body begins to change to look like the event has happened. Now, if your brain and body are physically changed to look like the event has already happened, then in the quantum field, the event has already happened. Now, hang on, because it's going to come in a way that you least expect. Now, why does it have to come in a way that you least expect? Come on, geniuses. Because if you can expect it, it's nothing new. It's more of the same. It's got to come in a way that you would never anticipate, that rocks your world, that leaves no doubt that what you did inside of you produced some result outside of you. And when you can begin to see the results of your efforts, you'll pay attention to what you did and you'll do it again. How many people understand? Now, your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. It's that simple. And your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality who's sitting here today, you, has created the present personal reality called your life. Would you agree? Would you also agree then, if you wanted to create a new personal reality, that on a fundamental level you would have to change the thoughts that you are thinking, the behaviors and habits that you're demonstrating, and the emotions that you've memorized that's become part of your identity? And most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it never works. We have to become somebody else. So then, as you keep thinking the same thoughts, performing the same actions, and living by the same experiences that produce the same emotions, there's a principle in neuroscience that says nerve cells that fire together wire together. And if you keep repeating the same states of mind and body over and over again, your brain begins to fire in the same sequences, in the same patterns, and same combinations. And whenever you make your brain work in a certain way, that's called mind. Mind is the brain in action. So as you remind yourself every day who you think you are, you're causing your brain to fire in the exact same ways. And as they fire and wire in the same patterns over time, the brain moves into a very finite signature, and that's called your personality. Now, that box in your brain isn't literally a box, but it's the most commonly wired, neurologically fired programs that run redundantly because we keep doing the same things over and over again. To change your mind, then, is to make the brain work in new sequences and new patterns and new combinations, to begin to make the brain work differently. And the one ingredient that allows us to do that is knowledge or information. Because every time you learn something new, you make a new connection in your brain. That's what learning is. Learning is forging new connections. Remembering is maintaining or sustaining those connections. So then, as the person begins to live by the same programs over time, the quantum law of reality says that your environment, your outer world, is an extension of your mind. So as you keep reproducing the same level of mind, you as the quantum observer are observing your life from the same level of mind. And as long as you observe from the same level of mind, your reality will keep showing up the same way. How many people understand? So now, every time you have a thought, you make a chemical. And if you have a great thought, or an unlimited thought, or a joyful thought, you turn on a set of circuits in your brain that fires in a very specific sequence, pattern, and combination that produces a level of mind that turns on another part of the brain that makes a chemical for you to begin to feel exactly the way you were just thinking. Great or unlimited or joyful. Now, if you have a negative thought or an unhappy thought or a self-depreciating thought, you turn on a different set of circuits in a different combination, a different sequence, and a different pattern that produces a different level of mind. And the brain then begins to make a different batch of chemicals that signals the body for you to begin to feel exactly the way you were just thinking, negative or unhappy or unworthy. So the moment you begin to feel the way you think, because the brain is in constant communication with your body, you begin to think the way you feel, which makes more chemicals for you to feel the way you think, and then you think the way you feel, and then you feel the way you think, and then you think the way you feel. And some people do this for 20 or 30 or 40 years. Now, the redundancy of that cycle over time creates what I call a state of being. And a state of being is when your mind and body are working together, or your thoughts and feelings are aligned to a concept. So thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body. And as people get caught in this cycle of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking, over time, they condition their body to memorize that emotion as well as the conscious mind. And whenever the body knows as well as the mind, that's called a habit. A habit is when your body is the mind. Now, 95% of who you are by the time you're 35 years old is a set of memorized behaviors, set of emotional reactions, beliefs, perceptions, attitudes that run just like a computer program. So 5% of your conscious mind begins to work against 95% of what you've memorized. So the person wants to think positively, but they're feeling negatively. They want to create their dream board, and put up their future life, but they feel unworthy. That's mind and body in opposition. We have to recondition the body to a new mind. So if 95% of who you are by the time you're 35 years old is a set of memorized behaviors in which the body is the mind, then to change then is to be greater than your body. Now, how many people here, well, you'd have to be over 35 for this one, but couldn't consciously remember a phone number, and you walked over to your phone, you looked down at the receiver, and all of a sudden your fingers dialed the number? Well, what's up with that? You couldn't consciously remember it, but you practiced it so many times that your body knew better than your brain. So 95% of who you are is a set of those programs in which the body knows better than the mind, or the body becomes the mind. So, would you agree then, if you have an insecure thought, you're going to feel insecure? Yes? In the moment you feel insecure, aren't you going to think more insecure thoughts? Which then you're going to feel more insecure, then you're going to think more insecure thoughts, and then you're going to say, I am insecure. And whenever we say, I am anything, what we're saying is our mind and body are working together. Now, some people get caught in these cycles and they begin to believe that that state of being is who they are. So how does this happen? Feelings and emotions are the end product of past experiences. And you can remember experiences better because you can remember how they feel. You can remember the birth of your first child. You can remember graduating from college. You can remember going on that vacation when you graduated from college. You can remember the birth of a horse that you have. You can remember catching a fish off the coast of Mexico. You can remember going home and cooking it for dinner. You can remember drinking that really great Cabernet with the fish and ocean breeze hitting you in the face and the smell of the salt air. but you can't remember what you had for dinner the night before. It's because routine lulls the brain to sleep. Now, when you're in the midst of an experience, everything you're seeing and smelling and tasting and feeling and hearing, all of your 5 senses are plugging you into the environment. And as you're beginning to gather all of this vital sensory information from the environment, all of that data begins to rush back to your brain. And as that information goes back to your brain through those 5 sensory pathways, jungles of neurons begin to organize themselves into patterns to reflect the external event. The moment those neurons string into place, the brain releases a chemical, and that chemical is called a feeling or an emotion. Now think about this, you're geniuses, right? So if feelings and emotions are the end product of past experiences, and you're caught in this cycle of thinking and feeling to the point where feelings become the means of thinking, where you can't think greater than how you feel, and you told me that your thoughts have something to do with your destiny. If you're thinking equal to how you're feeling, and feelings are a record of the past, are you thinking in the future or are you thinking in the past? What are you creating more of? Same. Quantum law still applies, but by very definition, those feelings are a record of the past. Now, your body is your unconscious mind, and it does not know the difference between an actual experience in your life that creates an emotion and an emotion that you fabricate by thought alone. So the person who's caught in the cycle of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking, and they're thinking in their past, their body as their unconscious mind is beginning to believe it's in the same experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. To the body, it's living in the past. And we cannot go to a new future or create something new in our life holding on to the emotions of the past. Now, when you and I react to events in our life that are difficult or traumatic, when you react to something, there's a chemical change in your body. And the moment you notice some chemical change in your internal state, the moment you notice different, you feel different, you begin to pay attention to whoever or whatever caused that. And that event in and of itself is called a memory. So you react to something in your life, and there's chemical changes in your body. There's a refractory period of chemicals that's running through your bloodstream. And if you don't know how to control your emotional reaction, and you allow that emotion to linger for hours or days, you know what that's called? That's called a mood. What's wrong with you? Oh, I'm in a mood. Why are you in a mood? Well, this thing happened to me 6 days ago, and I'm memorizing my emotional reaction. Now, if you allow that emotional reaction to continue for weeks or months, that's called a temperament. What's wrong with him? Oh, he just has an angry temperament. Why are you so angry? Well, this thing happened to me 9 months ago, and I'm memorizing my emotional reaction. Now, if we keep that same refractory period that's connected to a past experience running for years on end, that's called a personality trait. So would you agree then, by very definition, people memorize emotions. They're connected to their past that they begin to wear as their personality. And so would you agree then that if you wanted to change your personality, you would have to begin to look at those emotions that have branded you, that keep you connected to the past? How many people are still with me? Now, a memory without the emotional charge is called wisdom, and that's the name of the game.